Ladies and gentlemen, happy Wednesday night. Welcome to Deep in the Plus. I'm your host, Rob Whiteside. Thank you guys, as always, for joining us on Deep in the Plus. We appreciate it. This is the show where we go deep into the Disney catalog on Disney Plus, and we find a TV show or a movie, and we talk about it. And so thank you for being with us. Don't forget to subscribe to WDWNT TV for more great content. Also, please make sure to give this video a thumbs up as it helps people to find us. And we have assembled... I feel like it's an Avengers Assemble sort of a situation. The best people we could find to talk about Cinderella, starting with Alison.
Hi, everyone.
And Shannon.
Hey, Rob. Thanks for having me. Just to let you know, hard stop at midnight tonight.
Hard stop.
Okay.
Got you.
Yeah.
This is not news tonight. I don't know what you're talking about. And, of course, Stephanie.
Hi, everybody. Bibbidi Bobbidi Wednesday.
What is with y'all tonight? I don't know. This is great. I love this energy, though. Keep it up. So the movie we're talking about tonight, as you saw at the beginning, is Cinderella. And this is the original 1950 Cinderella. There are many versions of Cinderella, obviously, and a lot of them are on Disney Plus, including the live-action telling of Cinderella and also the Rodgers and Hammerstein Cinderella, which every time we were talking about Cinderella, Shannon's going, let's do that one. And maybe someday we will. But tonight we're doing the 4K presentation of Cinderella because they went back for the 100 years of Disney. It's 100 years of wonder. They went back and they remastered this. It came out in August on Disney Plus. So if you haven't had a chance to see it, we're going to talk about it tonight, and hopefully you guys will play along with us in the chat. So I want to start by saying, like, I guess my question would be, what is your favorite thing about Cinderella? The story to me is a little bit sad. So I know that Alison, you had said before on another show that you thought that Cinderella might be your favorite. What's the connection you have there? Why do you like it so much?
She is. I guess I'm basic like that because this is a very basic princess to have as your favorite. But I like that. I know that you find this sad, but I think she's relentlessly positive because she seems to find joy in like little things in life, and she finds community in all her like rodent friends, and so I just think that she's inspiring. Plus the that black choker is like timeless. Also, I grew up like with the plastic bubble like VHS at home, so this is one of those that I watched over and over and over again. So I think it just kind of seeped into my DNA.
The clamshell. Everybody loves the clamshell VHS. Yeah. That's the classic. That meant happiness, didn't it? The clamshell. Whether you already had one at home or you had one at grandma's or you found it at Blockbuster, the clamshell just meant happiness, didn't it? Shannon, what's your tie to this one? What do you like about Cinderella and the animated one? Or you could talk about the Rodgers and Hammerstein. I don't care. You can go off book. Let's do it.
No. Well, we'll stick with the content at hand here. I will also say, yeah, I guess with Alison, the outfits was kind of a plus. I rewatched it for the first time today, actually, probably since I've opened that clamshell however many years ago. And I really appreciated some of the dry humor that's thrown in, especially related to the cats. I'm about to lose the cat crowd here, but the fact that Cindy is trying to say something positive about Lucifer, and she's like, there's got to be something like that. I also don't like cats.
Just the fact that they named the cat Lucifer is a loss from the very beginning. I mean, we obviously, and then, of course, just evil. And the cat, the animation of the cat looks just like they threw black paint on the Cheshire Cat. Like, it's very similar, and it's of the same time frame. I believe Alice was 1955, and this one's 1950. So it makes sense that they would be similar, but they're similar size. But they make you hate the cat in this one. Stephanie, what was your tie?
Well, I grew up watching this. I don't exactly remember how old I was when I first watched it for the first time, but Sleeping Beauty is actually my favorite princess movie. Cinderella, as I have girls, children, as you know, I actually really like it more and more. And I think it's exactly what Alison was saying. She is resilient. And people talk about her, okay, you need a man to rescue and this kind of thing, and that's what the movie's trying to portray. But actually, she really stands up for herself. She stands up for her right to go to the ball because she did everything that the stepmother asked, and she was still knocked down and she was still able to overcome adversity. So I think that there's a lot of good lessons to be learned there, and she does get her prince in the end. So
Oh,
So you said she gets knocked down, but she gets up again?
exactly.
never going to keep her down.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Welcome.
Yeah, let's talk about this is something that hit me while I was watching it, and you were talking about like it's been a minute since you've watched this one. I when I watched it, I was like, I don't remember this. There's so much of it. I'm like, I don't remember this, and I thought to myself, is this just stuff that I knew because I worked at the Disney store back in the day, and they just ran that sing along loop in the background the entire time over Plush Mountain? Maybe. But I
Flush
did
Mountain.
know all the words to Cinderella, Cinderella as it came up, which was interesting. But what I want to talk about is the era for Disney animation. This princess look is the same look we have for Snow White, and it's the same look that we have for Aurora. So it is, I mean, and it makes sense because it's in the same era, right? It's not the era we have that started with Ariel and goes to Jasmine and Belle, and they all kind of look alike too. This is a classic princess look, and somehow over the years they've made them all look like they match. I feel like like these very very classic and they I feel like they were almost going for something more realistic, Allison. Like they were trying to make them look more real. I know that they would bring in like reference
Yeah.
models and things, but do you get that same vibe?
Yeah, I think so. And this is only 13 years after Snow White, right? This is not that long, so there's a lot of similarities. But I think you're right. They tried to make it a little bit more real. And I remember years ago that they used to think like, okay, well, what would Walt say about the princesses like Ariel and Belle, and what would he think of this animation? And it'd largely be like very proud of the style, but that like the eyes would be like far too big because they are like cartoonishly large. But if you look at like this version and this style, like it is more matching the model that appeared before the animators.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, this is back in the day of Walt. This is back in the day of the Nine Old Men. This is the original animation, and this movie takes place in 1950, or not takes place, but this movie came out in 1950, and it was really the first resurgence of Disney in the full-length animation because they had been doing what they called anthology movies. They were these pieces of movies because they couldn't afford to make a whole one, so they would take, Bongo and Mickey and the Beanstalk and put them together and go, hey, that's a movie. So this is really the first return to seeing that. That said, this is a 1950 movie. It's got the letterbox or the old TV ratio to it. But when we're talking about this being remade into 4K, some of the original like artwork that happens at the beginning, this like almost the sketch art that they have, this is where it really, and right from the beginning, kind of took me as they really cleaned this up. Like I don't know, Stephanie, if you have seen it at all. I mean, I think we're talking about the videotapes, and so like in the clamshell, it was not going to be this kind of a still shot pause when you would see it. But I mean, did any of this occur to you while you're watching? Did you go, yeah, they did a good job?
That was actually the first thing that occurred to me. Of course, it's one of the first scenes that you see after they open the book, and the book itself looks like you could reach out and touch it. It
Yeah.
has depth and everything to it. But the you can see it looks like parchment, like they did a watercolor on parchment, and you can see the grooves in the paper on those first sketches, which is just phenomenal. It looks beautiful.
Yeah, this is a little bit of a dark take on, I mean, a dark picture, but yeah,
Mhm.
the book really does kind of pop, and you can see the care that they took to make this look so clean. So I love seeing this like this. And Patrick and I have gone back and watched the shorts that they've redone for the 100 years as well, and I'm not as moved. In this one, I was like, okay, it's going to be the same thing we've seen in the shorts, but now when I go and look at this, I'm like, it really does kind of stand out and make a difference. Um, Real quick, Shannon, will you just name every Disney animated feature that opens with a book? No, I'm just kidding. I
Oh
don't.
no.
I don't. I don't expect you to do that. But same question to you. I mean, were you impressed
Yeah.
by the remastering of this?
I was, and I felt like the detail was so crisp and clean that you could see um, the animation, like the hand drawn animation. The bubbles weren't perfect, and you can kind of see how the color wasn't solid as you would see in a movie production today. And in general, you can see a lot more of the detail, I think, than maybe our memory of the VHS tapes is that fuzzy screen and not so clear. So I think it makes a difference. And I'd also add, you talk about this being one of the first full length animation features, like coming back after Snow White. It I think it's a great length, 50 minutes, 55 minutes, around that range. So if it's something you haven't seen in a while, it's an easy watch.
I'm not gonna lie, I was excited about that.
Yeah.
When I sat down and I was like, an hour and 18 minutes, I get to do that. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
I could do
Yeah.
that. So, and I didn't pick that from the beginning, but as Patrick and I talked about, The Happiest Millionaire was a 3-hour movie. We're like, what have
Oh
you
no.
done? Yeah, you're right. I mean, it is one you're like, yeah, I can fit this in before dinner, no problem. Yeah, the length, I feel like in the day, 88 minutes. Right, like I think Pocahontas is 88 minutes. Like I feel like in
Yeah.
general that's been the case. But then in the modern movies, like Marvel movies and good God, Avatar, like those movies are so freaking
Oh.
long that I'm sure if you guys sit down with your husbands, you go, hey, when you want to watch something, or like Avatar, you're like, boop, nope, thank you. So thanks James Cameron for ruining that for us. One of the things though, when I was watching this, I kept thinking I'm gonna get them in some inconsistencies. One of them was the clothes on the mice. I was gonna go, you know what? They don't
Oh.
explain that, and then they do. I love that. They're like, it's like back in the day and they're covering their bases on all that kind of stuff. I thought that was like amazing that they're like, okay, we've got this new mouse. Let's go ahead and get him some clothes. He's going to need some clothes when we go back down. There was not Jock but Gus Gus in the box, and so they're like, well, we'll go rescue him, but first let's make sure he's going to have some shoes and a shirt. And so I love that she makes the clothes for the mice, which of course comes back to, you know, help her when they make the dress. I have a hot take though. Are you ready? You ready to hate me? I feel like that the mouse speak is very similar to the Gungans and Jar Jar Binks.
I thought they were sound
Never
like
thought about that.
Jawas.
Jawas or Ewoks?
No, Jawas.
Oh,
Maybe it wasn't the mice. No, it had to
Ewoks.
have been the mice.
yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
just the whole time I'm thinking Jar Jar. Yeah, Gus Gus, good. I thought like it felt like that. I don't know. Obviously,
See it
George
now.
Lucas watched a lot of this. Allison, I'm going to throw this back to you because again, this is our back and forth about the whole how dark is this movie. Usually, a Disney movie, as wonderful as they are, starts out with an absent parent, usually because of death. Not this one. Boom, they give you two right off the bat. Like, I mean, how are you feeling about that? Tell me what the upside is of that one.
Well, I'll say this is the first movie that I have watched for deep with my daughter because the length was good and because it was like age appropriate. And she only asked once where like the real parents were. She's been asking separately for a stepmother because she wants two moms in the house. I tried to explain that that's not really how it works.
Yikes.
Which is really complicated. But she was like, "Why is the stepmother so mean?" I'm like, "Yep, can't control how nice the stepmother's gonna be." So yeah, no, I guess it's it's a little dark, but you're fast forwarding very quickly to her as an adult, and like she's functioning in this world. And by the way, while we're talking about her relentless positivity, she is not like, "Oh, I'm gonna escape this. I'm gonna go to this ball and I'm gonna fall in love with the prince and I'm gonna live happily ever after." She is happy with just like a night out. That's all she wants. And that is for me very relatable.
That's very
Spoken like a
true.
mom. I just want a night out. I just want a night out. Yeah, one of the other things that I didn't notice, and this is me bouncing around a little bit, is I don't remember, and I think all of you have said this, but Shannon, I'm going to throw this to you. I don't remember them talking, or that she didn't know it was the prince. Like, she meets this
Right, I didn't
dude and she
either.
just likes him, and all of a sudden it's like she doesn't realize at all he was the prince. She's like, I didn't even get to meet the prince.
Well, okay, can I get negative here for a second? That's what I didn't like about the movie. I'm like, how could you be so naive? And it just throws me back to Snow White taking food from a stranger in the middle of the woods. Like, how could you be so absent-minded? So that was the one thing that probably annoyed me about the movie.
Okay, yeah, there are some things that don't quite pass the litmus test of 2023, right? I mean, there's a couple things, a few, One of them, one of them that hit me is Stephanie. I don't know if this one bothered you or not, but Jock, he's very excited to be sewing, and they take the needle away. Go, no, sewing's for the women.
Oh, no.
I mean, how did that one hit
I,
you?
I think it's just, of the era that it was in. And it's cute. Susie and Perla, they're singing their little song, their little ditty. My son actually really enjoys sewing with his grandmother, and they did sewing class at school, home ec kind of thing. So I
Oh,
don't think there's anything wrong with that. I can't sew, so I'm let him do all of the darning of the socks and things. But I think that, in general, this is you have to look at it in the context of the time frame that it was written in. And I agree with Allison. She is content to be in the situation that she's in. And if I can stand up for Snow White and Cinderella a little bit, Shannon, for taking food or meeting strangers, they are both abused shut-ins. So they don't have the
true.
common sense to not go and talk to a stranger necessarily. They've been told what to do their entire lives. So maybe that
It's a
is
valid
a little
point.
psychology of it.
And strangers are safer than their actual homes, kind of like
There
with
you go.
Rapunzel.
Well, while we're at that, and
Rapunzel.
Allison, back to you since you said that your daughter wants two moms. I was there was an article not long ago about how stepmothers are angry about stories like this that portrays the stepmother as evil. Um, I mean, I don't know if everyone does that, but I feel like that is a big stereotype, right?
It was certainly a theme, and I think like any child where there's like divorce or death in the family, and and then another parent like introduces a new partner, it's like there's an unknown, and that's scary to get to know a new person that might live in your house and have some authority over you. So it's sort of, I guess, like historically they're sort of exploiting that trauma, and then like maybe making it worse because we never really see it work out. But they addressed this in another movie we did together, Rob, when it with Enchanted 2, is that what I'm talking? Yeah, whatever the title was. They talk about that and had like the bad images of evil stepmothers. Is the whole premise of the plot,
Yeah.
trying to undo
Um,
some of that damage.
no, yeah, exactly. But I know that that's been a thing that people have talked about.
I
Let's
think
talk about
can I say
Yeah,
one
go
thing
ahead.
about that?
Go ahead.
So in the introduction, I think it's one of the best like segues into the current time, as they're going back through the history, and the monologue as she's talking about how Cinderella's mother died and her father thought she needed a mother figure. And the line is, as upon the untimely death of her father, it was the stepmother's true um, character was revealed. And I thought that that was just a beautiful summary, just in that one sentence, as to why she wasn't like that before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing, but what I was going to say was let's talk about Lady Tremaine, who, by the way, I don't think I knew until I was like much older that that was the character's name, other than Evil Stepmother. But Lady Tremaine is one that I feel like they bring out like for the Halloween parties too, as if she's this evil, evil villain. But she's so different from the rest. She's not supernatural. She doesn't have magical powers. She's just a not nice word, really. So I mean that's one of those things I look at. But when you see this image where she's like, okay, I don't know what Cinderella's doing here. Let me cut away again so that YouTube doesn't get mad at me. But when she sees Cinderella and she realizes what's happening, this image.
Yes,
Oh yeah.
I love the shading.
And it
Same thing
mirrors
Yeah,
the
that
cat
monster.
eyes.
Yeah.
yeah,
Cat eyes.
they do that in an earlier scene too when she's laying in the bed with Lucifer. And I loved how dramatic the shading was, and I it made me think about how difficult that may have been from an animation perspective back in the 50s, but it's beautifully done.
Yeah, no, I agree. It is one of those things though where I just was looking at her. I'm thinking, okay, who do we usually compare her to? Ursula, Jafar. I mean, I don't know. It just seems like she's just really good at being a bad person. Like she's not Shadow Man. She's not like, and yet she's thrown in with all the rest of them. I guess the closest one you could say would be Cruella de Vil, but Cruella de Vil is just like outwardly like this one. She's
Crazy.
hiding it. She's hiding it. She's
Gaston.
masking that she's evil.
Didn't
Yeah,
she, wasn't the voice actor the same for Maleficent? So isn't she the mistress of evil anyway?
Mhm.
I think so. Yeah.
Wait a minute. Is that connected? Maybe?
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know. Um, yeah. So as I'm looking through this though, and watching this movie again, there were so many scenes that I didn't remember. And such care was taken in every detail of this movie, in my opinion. When she goes outside and she puts on the clogs to go outside and do like kind of the farming, I'm like, okay, yeah, that would be something that would probably happen. Didn't need to happen, but it was very purposeful when she goes outside and she like spreads the chicken feed and then comes back in. For someone who is supposed to be taking care of these mice and making them clothes and everything, why does she make them fight for their lives against Lucifer to get a scrap of corn? I,
Exactly.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense why she's not feeding them herself.
right?
She's completely domesticated these mice. But I think I remembered every scene of this, but what I didn't remember was just how much of this movie are the mice just like doing
Yes.
Yes.
things. Like, and I didn't notice it until like I think also watching it with my daughter, because that's what like held her attention, was
Mhm.
all of the antics with the mice. And so I think this is what makes it like accessible to a preschooler, but also like holds the attention of like mom, because you have like the super evil villain with no magical powers and this like these family dynamics, and then also like Gus trying to hold all the corn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, Allison, because you watched it with your daughter. I'm very curious to know, did she did it hold her attention in general? I know you said the mice was something that got her attention, and obviously we talked about it's shorter. But was this the first time she had seen it, and did it hold her attention? Was she like, yeah, I'm down. Like that's a movie I like.
It was, I think, the first time that we've seen it in full. We may have tried a bit of it a while ago. She's seen Sleeping Beauty a number of times, which she really likes, and I thought she might like this better. But and I think I was right. She was paying attention the entire time. She was, I think, confused by the motivations of like the human characters, like the stepsisters and the stepmother. But not at all confused by the mice and by Lucifer. And she very much enjoyed that. And the only time she got scared was when Jacques was in the pocket of the stepmother and like getting hot, and like the key is, and then at that point she was like, all right, I think I might need to leave the room. And I was like, okay, should we
Oh,
fast forward it? She's like, no, 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 I can do this. And then she watched the rest of the movie.
hold it up.
A little traumatic, but yeah, she loved it, and they have so much of that interspersed that you're not actually on the human characters sustained for huge periods of time, so works for
It's
preschooler.
I was gonna say it's 23 minutes before we cut away to the castle, and so most of that is, I mean, we haven't met in like the first 12 minutes we haven't met anybody but Cinderella and the animals. One thing that's weird to me though is when we're talking about the animals in this movie, we talk about Jacques, we talk about Gus, and we talk about Lucifer, but we don't talk about Bruno.
Yeah.
Knew you'd work that in. That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yay!
Slow
Good job,
clap.
Rob.
Slow clap.
And while I'm kidding, and I have been working all night to put that in there, it's true. Like we don't. I mean, like it's not one of the characters that I think that stands out for us. And I mean, he's kind of the hero at the end, right? He comes and
Yes.
it's like, you
Yeah.
know what?
Once
Go get
once they
Bruno.
wake
He'll
him
fix
up.
everything. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Um, sorry, I had to do that, and then after that, all we could sing was Bruno because of the line. So I don't know
I
if
think
Lin
he
Manuel
looks too
Miranda
much like
was impressed.
Trusty.
Ooh.
Okay, from Lady and the Tramp.
Yeah. It's like a like slightly younger Trusty, and I feel like I conflate the two, which is why I forget about Bruno. I don't
Poor
talk
sad
about him.
Bruno gets set up by the evil cat, Shannon. Like, oof.
Evil.
Yeah, I mean, like, he said now he's got to go outside. But I mean, the message of positivity you were talking about, she tries to instill in Bruno as if that's her kid, right? She's like, you know what, this isn't great, but you've got to learn to get along with Lucifer. You've got to learn to play the game and be a part of it and not fight or have any fuss or muss with this. So, I want to ask, like, again, when we go back and watch this thing, were there other parts? Stephanie, were there other parts of this as you were watching it? Like, when was the last time you watched it? When you watched it this time and you went, I don't remember that, because there are a lot
Oh,
for me.
yeah, it's been a long time. I do remember it though, because I do watch it probably at least once a year. My children kind of go through the catalog, like scroll through all of the movies, but I haven't introduced it. I think your daughter is a perfect age, Allison, for this movie in particular. I think it's one of the first ones that you can introduce, and that it will hold their attention around 3 or 4. So I'm waiting for the baby to be that old to really understand. But no, I remembered a lot of it. I think it's hilarious how the king is constantly trying to kill the duke, and not just get onto him, but he threatens his life multiple times. And isn't a duke technically the king's brother,
The Grand Duke, maybe.
the Grand Duke?
I, but yeah, you're right. Like, he's wielding the sword around and chased them around the room,
Yes.
and like,
Yes.
yeah, that's not a yeah. This isn't like some just roughhousing. This is some serious stuff. Um, and during the entire scene, and it may have just been me, I'm worried the entire time, even though I've seen this movie before, that they're gonna break the freaking slipper,
Right.
Yeah.
right? And you're like,
Yeah.
whoa, whoa, no, be careful. No, we need that. We need that to prove. And even though we know that that's not how it gets proven in the end anyway. Um, so they go through the whole process of, we set the stage with the prince. He needs to get married, and by decree of the king, every eligible maiden. See, that was another line that I was like, doesn't really pass the test. Every eligible maiden is by decree required to be at this shindig. And so, isn't Lady Tremaine breaking the rules, breaking the law, when she hides Cinderella? Do we think that she knew all along that Cinderella was going to be the hit of the ball?
She seems delusional about her own daughters, though. Like,
How
like
so?
if it's not going to be them. Like, with or without Cinderella, there, it's not going to be these ladies. It's just not.
And they know that too, because you can tell their insecurities are really coming out, because they do not want Cinderella to go either. So I think they all know deep down inside that Cinderella is gorgeous, and they're not.
What
So
And
are
she's
you
pushed so
saying?
much money. She's spent so much money and time trying to press and make a diamond out of coal. And yeah,
Yeah.
so
Ooh.
she's jealous and
How dare
doesn't
you
want
body
that.
shame these beautiful women and everything that they
with
stand for here?
with her
Um,
giant feet.
I the giant feet, right? Exactly, which had to be there because of the whole shoe. And I love like the Grand Duke doing the monocle thing when he spots like I there. It was seemingly so close so many times to a foot thing. Like,
Oh
the
gosh.
affection of the shoe, the him spotting the odd, like he's obsessed. Anyway, that's just, now that we've made that awkward. Let me talk about the stepsisters though, because some of y'all, Stephanie and Allison, did Ever After, and we did that one. We did that review, the Drew Barrymore movie, which is basically Cinderella. In that one, they kind of explain, because her name is like Daniela, they explain that the Cinderella came from the whole like ash, and she's always, because she's always dirty. And then her sisters are Jacqueline and Marguerite, not Anastasia and Drizella. And then Allison and I did Into the Woods. And in that one, it's Lucinda and Florinda. Um, Allison, this is your story. Why are the sisters not always the same?
I don't know, but they're all wildly different in like how they present their actual characters are wildly different, right? And ever after you have some like humanization of them and some understanding, and like one is much nicer than the other. I don't remember now all the details. Have to go back and watch a review
Jacqueline.
to remind myself. But they were more fleshed out, fully formed characters. And in this, they are. I feel like they just tried to pick names that actually I think are very pretty, but were like would elicit some kind of like response in 1950 or whatever.
Yeah.
And so that's why they chose those names. But Yeah, they're like just cartoonishly mean and nasty and spoiled and evil. Although I was really impressed. I don't know if it's Anastasia or Drizella when she's explaining why her foot isn't fitting in it, and she's like, you know how it is dancing all night, just swollen feet. Like, it's like a pretty impressive excuse right off the bat there. So they're not stupid. They're just
And
like kind of mean and uncouth.
you're over there going, "Amen, sister." Um,
I know what it's
but
like.
the second inconsistency, and again, where I'm thinking I'm gonna get them because of the like the mouse clothes, is that everything's going away at midnight, and yet
Yeah.
the shoe remains, but they
Yes.
kind of explain that almost as if it was a gift from the fairy godmother because she got to keep the other one, that the shoes would remain, which obviously this was some long con that the fairy godmother was playing, that seems like. But Stephanie, you look like you want to say something about that. Maybe
In
you
my
have some glass
mind,
shoes? I don't know.
yeah, I wish. In my mind, I always thought it was because they got separated. If they had stayed
Hmm.
together on her feet, perhaps they would have gone away with the rest of the outfit. But I always thought it was because she left one and it was lost.
Well, I I'm always on board with magic as long as you can have rules and explain it. And so the fact that the shoes remained was one of those things where I was like, I don't really know. And I love that there's like sparkle still left on them as if the magic is still there. So we know these are still magic shoes. I assume that glass slippers would be a fantastic thing to wear, run in, dance in. I don't own any, but I assume it's kind of like Uggs or, Crocs, the same kind of a, I don't know.
No.
Let's talk about the music. Some of the music, like again, there's so much of this older content with Snow White and Sleeping Beauty and Cinderella, and I'm going to be honest. I think a lot of times I get them confused which ones the songs are from. Because again, when I worked at the Disney store, they had that sing along thing on a loop, and I would just hear the songs all the time and go, okay, now I know this. It's burned into my head. But A Dream Is the Wish Your Heart Makes. I probably, if you had, like foot to the fire, I probably would have said Snow White for some reason. I don't know why, but A Dream Is Wish Your Heart Makes. Sing Sweet Nightingale. I feel like I've heard that bit, like that's on something else other than this. The way that like the way that the stepsisters sing it so horribly. The Cinderella song, like I said, I know that seemingly cold, and then Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo. Stephanie, tell me what's your favorite song? What's the one you sing along to?
Oh, I love Bibbidi Bobbidi. It's a fun, nonsensical phrases, but then it, put them together and what have you got, So I think I love how absent-minded the fairy godmother. I can relate to her in that way a little bit. So I like how fun and free she is and helping Cinderella transform herself and get ready for the ball after she's gone through something traumatic and terrifying. So that was one of my favorite scenes and one of my favorite songs.
That's actually the Cinderella is actually called the work song, and I feel like we've given Lin Manuel Miranda a little bit of too much criticism for Moana and rhyming shiny with hiney. But Cinderella seems to take a lot of liberties too. Shannon, what about you? What's your song from here?
It's funny when I turned on the movie today, the music immediately hit me, and for me, again, this is a movie I've not seen in decades, but it's music I hear all the time, especially when you go to the park. So right away, when you hear "A Dream Is a Wish Your Heart Makes," it has so many feels for me, and I love that music. But if you're thinking of a song that I thought was in this movie, is "When You Wish Upon a Star," I realize that's Pinocchio, I think. But
It is.
I don't know.
No, it is. It is Pinocchio. You got it.
Yeah.
Allison, same question to you.
So you mentioned the stepsister's rendition of "Sing Sweet Nightingale," but I love when Cinderella sings it. I sing this like to my daughter at night, or sometimes I sing it when I'm cleaning. But what I really love is that in this movie, she's singing three-part harmony with herself, like as the bubbles are rising up when she's like
Yes.
scrubbing on the floors. And I think that's just so like artistic and inventive, and really cool, because this is not a time where they had those like looping pedals, right? Like this was not like a thing that was done at that time. So I think it was inventive in the way that they produced it and recorded it.
So you're talking about this scene right here. Yeah, that is
Yes.
yeah, very cool that the way put that together. And then we want to kill Lucifer again. Basically, it's yeah,
Right.
he's just literally literally the worst. Yeah, I swear there's, and maybe somebody in the chat would know. I don't know. I swear there was some like some bit on some show where they did the whole "Sing Sweet Nightingale" like the stepsisters did. Because as soon as they started singing, I'm like I don't remember this being in here.
Yeah. It sounds like a
Um,
Carol Burnett kind of bit, but
yeah,
we'll have to
probably.
like look it up later.
The other thing that is, and Allison, you mentioned that strangers are nicer to her than the people around her. She doesn't seem to be too like freaked out that this woman is stroking her hair out of the middle of nowhere, and she's just like keeps talking to her. She's like, "Yeah, no, I mean, that's not weird to anybody else? That's something, Stephanie, that happens every day."
Not to me.
Sure.
Allison's like, "I don't get that." Ugh. Okay. Yeah, I mean, when she was doing that, I was like, show a bit of surprise here. Just a little, just a skosh of surprise that this woman has just magically appeared and is just stroking your hair. Also, it just seemed a little too, like, I don't know, too weird that, like, as we follow her, she's like all the way down the hall, goes to the door. We see and then down again, and like why here? Like this was like I need to get to my crying space immediately because that's where I cry. I always cry on this bench, and everybody knows that about me.
It's a
Yeah,
setup for the pumpkin, right? You got to get outside to get to
Yeah,
the garden.
true.
yeah, no, that's fair. All right. Well, again, thank you guys for watching tonight. We really appreciate it. If you haven't already, please give us a thumbs up as it helps people to find us. And now, Shannon specifically asked that I give some trivia tonight. She was like,
Oh
please,
no.
do you mind, because this movie is almost 75 years old? Is that right? Is my math correct?
Wow.
In 2025, it's going to be 75 years old.
73, yeah, 2025, yeah.
Yeah,
It is the
so
age of my father, so I'm like, he's not quite there yet. Like,
yeah. So I just have a few things. And again, I'm sure because you guys are fans and have seen it more than I have, you probably know the answer to all of these things. And again, because it's a group effort, no one has to feel bad if you don't know the answer. This one I think is pretty easy, so I'm gonna start super easy. Gus, she names him something else. Why does she gives him a first name? What is his first name?
Octavius.
Ooh.
Why? That is absolutely right, but why? Like that's the thing. Like, is Gus short
Fancy.
for Octavius?
For her,
Um,
I guess.
yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
All right, so let's get a little bit crazier here. When we first run into Cinderella, she is in her room, and the birds wake her up. Which, by the way, I'd have to lock the birds out if they were just gonna swing in and wake me up in the morning. I'm sorry, I can't have that. But the birds come in, and she is laying under her nice worn blanket. What color is that blanket?
brown, right?
Maybe.
Blue?
Mauve.
A shade of
Let's
brown?
go with
Yellow?
Yeah.
I will go with mauve. Mauve is I think more accurate. It's more of a, like I said,
Oh, yeah.
rose because it's not quite that, but I feel like that's
Okay.
probably one of those
It's like a
things that they
dusty
brought out
rose.
that they brought out in. Well, there you go. There's exactly this. We get to see the birds sit down on the blanket, and they have brown shoes. So
Oh my god.
I'm not really sure, but I think this goes back to the whole like 4K and colorization of it. I think that was one of the things that people complained about, the transformation dress, things like that, not looking like they were supposed to from back in the day. You're gonna hate me for this one. You ready? When we first meet the king and the Grand Duke, they are again, the king, he needs some anger management, honestly, I feel like, because he is quick to fly off the handle. And when he's talking about wanting to have his son and this party, he's showing two bookends. Name one of the names on the three books that are in the middle there before he knocks him off.
Oh my gosh. I have no
Nope.
idea. So,
Nope. No, thank you. Wouldn't do it. Nope. Nobody's gonna hazard a guess on that one.
no.
No.
I found it interesting because they spent a good amount of time on it, mostly because they were trying to show like the bookends and not the books themselves. But one of them is Homer, one of them is Plato, and
Oh.
Rubiales. Is that correct? Is that how you pronounce that one? I thought
don't
maybe
know.
the Plato would stand out because of that, but yeah. Rosita said
Wow.
Prince and the Pauper in chat. I wish it was the Prince and the Pauper, but again, this is a timeless tale. I'm sure there is an era that it's supposed to exist in, but these books would be timeless, I would assume, like for them to have them on the desk. So also, I'm not going to lie, those are creepy bookends. They just are.
No.
Like this seems like some sort of a twisted Hummel or something like that from back in the day. No offense to the
No.
people who
Yeah.
collect
Yeah, but
Hummels.
also this is 1950, and I could totally see that in my grandparents' house.
Just about to
Aw.
say that. I
Something
think
that
my
they
grandmother had
purchased
something
in like
similar.
the 40s. Yeah,
Yes, exactly.
that's the
Little
aesthetic.
porcelain people.
You so when the mice are making the dress, they measure the length from the waist to the ground. Anybody catch that measurement? They show it a couple times. How many inches?
No, I got the neck was like 8 inches, I think,
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh.
because she measures out the lace. And she's like 1, 2. But no, I can't answer the question you asked specifically.
No, but take center stage. That works. It again, it was one of those where it struck me that like it seemed like they waited on it too long, like they stayed on it too long, not for it not to be something noticeable. But it was 30 inches.
Oh.
Then she
I don't
should
know
be
what.
shorter. Then she like the prince. She should be short. Like I'm thinking like a
Was it a
like
drop waist?
what is it normal? Yeah, like the princess, like the Cinderella in the park should be like 5 feet tall instead of 5'7" or whatever she has to be. If that's the case.
Right.
Yeah. Well, maybe we need to talk to somebody about that and get that fixed up. I don't know.
I don't care anymore because I'm too old to try to be a princess in the park, but I would have cared 15 years ago.
Yeah, so they do the 30 inches
No,
and then
that's
she takes
true.
the 30
Yeah.
over to that. So I don't know. Again, I just thought that was an interesting one. What time is it when they get married?
5 o'clock. Wait,
Oh, you think it was an evening wedding? Did you see what they were wearing? No, I'm just kidding.
I'm trying to picture the clock at the end. Is it noon?
It is noon. Yes. 'Cause
Oh.
the bells are tolling. And okay, just one last one. You ready? What are the first words spoken in this movie?
I wasn't paying attention.
Like after
birds are saying.
after the intro.
The first spoken words.
She's talking to
Once
the
upon a
birds.
time.
That's it. Once upon a time. The narrator.
Oh.
The narrator says once upon a
Narrator.
time. So, yep, there you go. You see, that wasn't so painful. And actually, I feel like Shannon, you were really on your game. So, congratulations for that. I was also going to ask you what color was the king's nightcap, but I feel like no one would know that. So, I'm just moving past that one.
Was it blue?
It was purple, which I feel like is a royalty sort of a situation. He had like a gold night shirt. And then a purple nightcap, and apparently like purple underwear or overalls, or long johns or whatever they are. And you see them a lot because of that horrible fight where he's trying to slice the Grand Duke in half. So anyway, so the movie itself, the music. We talked about the remastering part of it, and I just kind of want to go around and get like from each of you like something else that you noticed about the movie that you felt like you wanted to talk about tonight. We'll start with Alison and work our way around clockwise, because again I feel like clocks play a big part in this movie. So this is all thematic, way planned. So let's start with Alison.
Well, I think Yeah, we've talked about everything that I wanted to bring up, but I think like my favorite scene is like watching her dance on the veranda, and it's like I think that are so many beautiful scenes in like these early movies, like Sleeping Beauty has it where you're seeing them like dance, and oh, and Beauty and the Beast also same thing, like these ballroom scenes. Maybe it's because I like dancing, but I think they're just like amazing. Amazing animation, and they just like sort of take you to another place. So even though 75% of this is like mice antics that are very much like Disney shorts and watching some kind of like silly symphony, you have these like very adult beautiful romantic scenes that have like just really memorable imagery that have stuck with me throughout my life.
Okay. Stephanie?
I'm not sure exactly how old she's supposed to be. Do you know, Rob? Like maybe 16 or 17, something like that?
I think it's a
Because
16 situation.
16. Okay.
Yeah.
So when she realizes, when she hears that, who she danced with really was the prince because she didn't recognize him. She just fell in love with a stranger, basically. And she realizes that it was the prince. And then she drops the clothes and she goes out of the room. Huh? And she's not really paying attention. What? What did you say? She's picking it up and she kind of goes out. And I think that's one of the scene's indicative of her age too, because it's like, oh, I really did meet him, I really did, this is going to change my life, and now I'm off in this other dream world. And I think that was a really good character point to put, because she's very pragmatic, she's very practical in all the rest of the scenes, and in that one she really transforms and she realizes that her life could be completely different.
Okay. I
But
like
it's
that.
also in character from the beginning. I like that point because like she says like they can take everything from me, but they can't take away my like dreaming.
Yes, very
Hmm.
good point. Yes.
But she almost gives up on it, and then the fairy godmother says, "If you'd given up on it completely, I wouldn't be here."
Right.
Yeah. No, I agree. Shannon.
Yeah, so something that surprised me was actually that Lucifer, I felt like played a bigger role than the prince, and the prince really was pretty minimalist in terms of being a character in the movie, and I think that is pretty consistent with other Disney princess movies, right? Like, is there a running joke that, and I haven't seen this in a really long time, Sleeping Beauty, Stephanie, maybe you can say, is the prince even a big part of that movie?
Yes, actually, he's probably one of the, apart from Rapunzel, like you're talking about in Entangled, Flynn Rider has a huge, part in that. He's the co-star. But yeah, Prince
Prince
Philip,
Philip slays the dragon.
he's a big,
Maybe I'm
like
thinking
half
of
half the
Snow
movie.
White.
Snow White, yeah, you barely see,
Yeah.
you barely see
Yeah,
him.
he's like he comes in it for the kiss and that's it.
At the
Which is
beginning,
problematic
yeah.
unto itself.
Oh, that's a whole nother story, whole nother
Yeah, we
show.
want. Yeah, we're not talking about that one tonight. Um, all right, so before we get into your final thoughts on this, one thing else I want to talk about, because we're part of a network that talks about theme parks, is to talk about Cinderella in the parks. One of the things that is amazing and magical about Disney World is that huge castle. It doesn't look anything like the one that we see in the movie. Yeah, like Stephanie, you have
Cinderella
thoughts on
Castle
that?
is not pink. It is not pink. Bring back my white and silver and blue. Please bring that back. That is what she has
Yes.
been from the beginning. It needs to be changed back. I get that they don't want to repaint things, but bring back my dream lights at Christmas time and bring back my color.
But I mean, it's nothing. Yeah, it's nothing like it. But Cinderella has her own castle, and then of course she has her royal table inside the restaurant, and then of course the mosaic that's underneath is all tied into that, and then the fountain that's over there. So there is some of that, but there was supposed to be something bigger when they did the Fantasyland Forest expansion. It wasn't originally supposed to, and I think we all know this, but it wasn't originally supposed to have the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train roller coaster. Snow White's Enchanted, not Enchanted Wish, but Snow White's Scary Adventures was going to stay where it was, and then they were going to bring in, just like the Enchanted Tales with Belle, two more meet and greets. One with Aurora getting her 16th birthday that she never got to have, and one with Cinderella.
Creepy.
That would
So
have been
here's the
neat.
one,
And
and
to
with the
do a
Cinderella.
quick change.
Yeah, it was a quick change. It was a quick change. She was going to go from the rags to her royal gown. It was going to be Cinderella's chateau, And so, you know, the lore is that we were supposed to have that, and we were supposed to have the Aurora. You know, everybody was supposed to make her like birthday cards, and she'd come out. And then the same thing was supposed to happen like Enchanted Tales with Belle, and then we were going to have Pixie Hollow, and apparently Tom Staggs had sons, and they were like, whoa, 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 too much princess. So they took, instead of doing their own meet and greets, they made Princess Fairy Tale Hall, and they took the Snow White IP and made the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train roller coaster, which I think we all kind of love that they did that. But I mean, is anybody sad that there aren't two more Enchanted Tales with Belle situations?
I mean, I'll take a ride over that any day, but like the Enchanted Tales with Belle is outstanding. I will do that by myself. I will do that with my kid. It is so well done. And I can only imagine if I like got to see in person the transformation with all of like the quick change technology that exists now that you see even like in Dancing with the Stars and things like that. Like it could have been incredible. And if we were to have one, I would rather it be this than Enchanted Tales with Belle, because we already have like the Our Guest restaurant and that whole like the whole area there. Like this is like a little oversaturated with Belle, and there's not enough Cinderella considering this is her castle park.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there is a lot of, I mean, there should be, I feel like, more Cinderella. Do you guys think there should have been a Cinderella dark ride?
Probably
Always.
so.
There should be a dark ride for everything. Where's that Strange World dark ride I've been looking for? There should be one for everything. I don't disagree. Like, I love the dark rides, but it feels like all the classics should have a dark ride. And, you know, you have Mr. Toad and Pinocchio and, you know, Snow White and Peter Pan, and it feels like Cinderella should be up there with the rest.
Mm-hmm.
But she has a castle.
They give him a carousel.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, it's a carousel. It's fine. She'll be fine. Yeah. And
originally,
so,
the restaurant wasn't even named after her. You remember what the name was of the restaurant? King Stephan's Table.
Royal.
That's right.
Oh,
I ate there when it was King
Sleeping
Stephan's
Beauty's
Royal.
father.
Yeah.
So that made no sense.
It made no sense.
And then they
for
made
years,
it Cinderella's,
I thought,
and then
yeah.
Go ahead.
For years, I thought King Stephan was from Cinderella because that was the name of the restaurant I ate at. It really confused me.
So with this movie also, there is Cinderella 2 and Cinderella 3, which are, you know, the Disney direct-to-video, you know.
I'm well versed in both, trust me.
Are you? Are you?
Yes,
okay.
my daughters.
Nice. But the other thing that I love about this, and I talk about this a lot on Deep in the Plus when we go into this catalog, is there is so much content around all of these movies, right? When they came out on DVD and Blu-ray, there was all kinds of extra content that they added, whether it be commentary or you know, making of or whatever. And, you know, there's no reason it shouldn't be on Disney Plus. And so for this one, there is some of that. There's told by emojis. There's an alternate sequence for the opening, a deleted scene. But this one from Diane Miller talking about Cinderella. But this one right here, The Real Fairy Godmother, it's about 12 minutes. If you haven't watched that, go watch that. The artist who created the Fairy Godmother patterned it after his wife, who was a huge philanthropist, and it's a great story. It's about 12 minutes. It's on that extras. You should go watch it. It's really good. So we've talked about all of this. It's about time for you guys to render final verdict, but I want to say a special thank you to our WIGS members. We love our WIGS, the WDWNT Interglobe Society. Thank you guys for being with us all the time. We appreciate it. I see in chat Dawn and Rosita and Adragger and Kira and Michael and I feel like Adam was there a little while ago, and Steven and Ronald. So thank you guys, of course, for being with us. I never can pronounce this right. Is it Terra Camino? But thank you guys for being with us in the chat, for chatting along, for joining us on Deep in the Plus. Don't forget that we dropped Disney Entertainment News today as well on this channel. We had Park Center last Sunday, which was a lot of fun to do. We will not have it this coming Sunday because of Destination D23. And then also News Tonight coming up tomorrow night. So don't forget to subscribe. But now, here is the time that you guys, this is why they showed up. This is the moment. This is the one. I'm going to go counterclockwise this time just to throw a wrench in the works with Shannon because she looks like she's ready for it. We've talked about the movie, the music. They've remastered this sucker for you. But Shannon, would you recommend this movie?
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, my expectations were a little low. I wasn't looking forward to watching it again because I think I feel they're so old. Maybe I can't appreciate it, but I had the exact opposite feeling. The music was nostalgic. I thought it was cute. There were some funny parts to it. So, and it was an easy watch. It's not very long. So, if you're looking for something, I highly recommend if you haven't seen it for a long time to put it on. I think you'll enjoy it.
Okay, and Stephanie?
I definitely give it two thumbs up, and you should go watch it. It has Walt's favorite scene that he himself said that the changing of the dress was his favorite scene, and I think of all of the movies, and I think that as dark as you think it starts out, Rob, it could have been darker, and they didn't have the stepsisters cut off their feet in order to fit in the toes, actually to fit into the shoe, as the
To
original
see
storyline
that, watch
goes.
Into the Woods. Okay.
Exactly. So it could have been worse. But yes, it is a classic, and of course it's iconic.
Oof.
Big word.
And Allison, this was your favorite. I kind of think I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, this is not a surprise. Of course, I recommend this, and I'm like pleased that I can watch this with my daughter. I can watch this by myself, and it's just a beautifully done film. Also, it's 1950. The fact that we don't have like a list of like culturally insensitive things that were like that happened, and the only thing we have is just like the sort of the throwaway line about sewing being for women, which not ideal, but like kind of small potatoes compared to some of the other like content warnings in these movies is like amazing. This is a 73-year-old film, so it holds up well. It's beautiful, and like anyone will find something in this that they'll appreciate. The animation is just so stunning, and the characters are all so like they just kind of tug on your heartstrings, from the mice to Bruno to Cinderella. So yes, highly recommend it.
Yeah, and I'm gonna like round it out and say I would recommend it too. This is one of those movies where I feel like I've seen it so many times, and yet when I watch through it, I feel like I may have never seen it end to end because maybe it was cut up, maybe I walked in the middle of it, but I loved every bit of it. As we talked about from the beginning, the length makes it very easy. The 4K, I feel like, is vibrant. I feel like they did a great job remastering this for the 100 Years of Wonder. This was supposed to be part of the remastering along with the shorts, so hopefully there are more that they will remaster before the end of the year and give us another reason to talk about it. But yeah, I mean, I was glad that we talked about this one, and that it got to be showcased. And yeah, I think everything we've said, but we would love to hear from you guys in the comments after the video stops. Let us know if this is one that matters to you. I feel like everybody's got their princess. One last question to the panel before we go that occurred to me earlier is, which Disney character, could be any Disney character, do you feel like you relate to the most? Allison?
Oh my gosh.
It's probably Belle, but I wish it was more Cinderella. Just because
Because you came from a poor provincial town, or
because I read a lot and I'm an introvert, and like I feel like I fit in everywhere and nowhere all the time. And just very much relate to Belle. But I also see a lot of myself in Cinderella and finding joy in like just totally monotonous labor around the house, which is also my life.
Stephanie, if you don't say what I think you're going to say, I'm going to be very disappointed.
Mary Poppins. I have a lot of kids.
Oh, yes.
So I mean, legitimately Mary Poppins though. Like I feel like you probably anytime like you're out with your kids and they're like, "Oh man, I need a piece of sandpaper," you reach down into your bag and you pull one out, whatever it may be.
100%. I could be a Boy Scout, always prepared.
Yep. And Shannon.
This is so tough. I feel like I could have so many answers, but I'm going to go with Rapunzel, because she's kind of a jack of all trades, master at none, wants to seek adventure, but also is afraid to leave the comforts of her home. So, and I can relate to all of that. So I like her.
Okay. Well, again,
Good
I
answer.
feel like, we grow up on Disney. We see Disney, and I would assume that you would see a little bit of that in yourselves. So thank you guys for playing along with that. I appreciate it. And don't forget to join us next week. We're going to be talking about, actually, I think I have, this is what's coming
Roger
up on
and
Deep in the Plus.
Hammerstein's Cinderella?
No. Tonight we did Cinderella. Next week is The Little Mermaid, which just dropped today. The live action Little Mermaid just dropped today on Disney Plus. The Groot Shorts season 2, and then by some weird piece of I don't know why, we're doing Alley Cat Strike with the original Brink crew, I think. So that should be interesting. I don't know. We may bring back a fan favorite to help us to review that one. So stay tuned, and please join us every week for Deep in the Plus. We have a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun seeing you guys in the chat, talking to you guys, and talking about stuff in the Disney catalog. And maybe this gives you a reason to go back in and watch some of this stuff. That's what we hope for. So have a great week. We appreciate you, and we will see you next time.